I want to be clear before this panel reviews my conduct that I followed procedure exactly. Every agent administered was within collective-approved containment protocol. Every dosage was logged. I have submitted the pharmacological record, the biometric feed, and the full sequence logged to this tribunal. And I invite any one of the three adjudicators to identify the deviation, because I have spent 14 months looking for it myself, and I cannot find one. My name is Veth Saran, the rank of Senior Chemical Containment Specialist, Collective Security Directorate, and I have held that post for 11 years. In those 11 years, I have processed 412 containment subjects across 9 species. I have never had a subject walk out of a secured room under their own power. I want the record to reflect that, before I describe what happened with the human. The subject was a male, mid-range age by human reckoning. Their biometric profile put him somewhere between 3 and 4 decades, though their aging markers are inconsistent enough that I note this only as an estimate. He had been brought aboard the Merith collective detention vessel Orith's Reach following an intelligence operation on the 7th Transit Corridor. He was not combative during transport. He was not combative during intake. When my team entered the containment room to conduct the initial pharmacological suppression, a standard procedure for any biological whose cognitive and physical parameters had not yet been fully mapped. He was sitting on the restraint bench with his hands open on his thighs, watching us come in, and he said something in his own language that our translator rendered as, "All right then." I mention his affect because it is relevant. He was not frightened. I want the panel to understand that clearly. A subject who knows what a suppression kit means, who has been through containment before, who simply has the good sense to recognize the instrumentation, will show a stress cortisols spike in their biometric feed before the first agent even prepared. The human's baseline held flat. His cardiac rhythm was calm, his respiration did not change. He watched us set up the delivery array with the same expression he might have used to watch someone prepare a meal. I administered Agent Soval 3 first. This is standard. Soval 3 is a neural inhibitor calibrated to interrupt voluntary motor control in all known oxygen metabolizing species. The effective dosage for a biological of the human's mass and metabolic rate was calculated at 0.4 units. Phase administered toward 1.2, 3 times the effective dose, and a quantity that would have produced full unconsciousness in a Karathi within 90 seconds and would have put a Devan into respiratory suppression within 4 minutes. We have no data suggesting any known species can tolerate above 0.8 units of Soval 3 without losing voluntary motor function. At 90 seconds, the human blinked. He rolled his neck once. His biometric feed showed a brief cardiac deceleration followed by recovery. Then he looked at me and said, through the translator, "Is that it?" I do not think he was being provocative. His tone was flat and, as best I could read it, genuinely curious. I escalated to Velith compound. Velith is a sedative paralytic. Its mechanism is different from Soval 3, where Soval 3 interrupts the motor control pathway. Velith acts on the synaptic binding sites responsible for maintaining wakefulness. The compound was developed specifically to address species with partial neural resistance to inhibitor-class agents. The effective dosage for a human mass biological was established at 0.6 units, based on comparative neurochemical profiles provided by the collective's Xenobiological Research Division. I administered 2 units. I want that to sit with this panel for a moment. 2 units of Velith compound in a subject of the human's body mass represents, by every model in our pharmacological database, a dosage that should not merely sedate, it should stop the higher brain functions entirely. The human yawned. It was a long yawn. He brought one hand up to his mouth, and he apologized for it. Our translator rendered the word as sorry, and then he said, "I don't suppose there's somewhere to lie down?" He gave him the floor mat. He lay down on it. I believed for approximately 4 minutes that the Velith had taken hold on a delayed timeline. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow. Then he opened his eyes and looked at the ceiling, and he said, "I keep almost getting there. Try anything else?" I have reviewed this biometric record more times than I can count. His Velith blood serum concentration at that moment was 3 times the published lethal threshold for any species in our database. His liver enzymes showed moderate elevation. Otherwise, his body was processing the compound, not resisting it. Processing it. As though his metabolic system had encountered a toxin and was simply breaking it down, the way any healthy organism might clear a mild irritant over the course of an afternoon. I administered a third agent, the Devon suppressor. I will not specify the dosage here because the tribunal has the log, and I will not have it said that I am editorializing the numbers for dramatic effect. The Devon suppressor is a compound of last resort. It is used in extreme containment scenarios, escaped predator-class specimens, biological threats requiring immediate incapacitation. It is not a sedative. It is functionally a shutdown agent. The dosage I used is the dosage specified in my training for a biological that cannot otherwise be stopped. I watched his biometrics. Blood pressure dropped. His cardiac rate slowed. I thought, this is it. His eyes closed again. They stayed closed for 11 minutes. Then he sat up. He sat up slowly, bracing one hand on the floor mat, blinking as though coming out of a long sleep. He looked at his hands for a moment. He looked at me. The translator caught what came next, and I have read the transcript so many times I no longer need it. He said, that one almost worked. Then he said, is there anything else you want to try? I'm asking seriously. I'm not going anywhere. I did not respond. 2 technicians with me had not moved since the Veleth failure. I looked at the subject, at this unremarkable human, this mid-sized, mid-age biological, who was sitting on a floor mat in a secured containment room with a blood serum pharmacological load that should have killed him times, and I realized that I was out of compounds, not because of a supply failure, not because of procedural error, because the sequence was complete. I had administered everything the protocol provides, in escalating order, at dosages beyond any established safety margin, and the subject was asking me, with what appeared to be genuine patience, whether there was additional material he could assist me in testing. I logged the session as inconclusive and requested guidance from the directorate. The guidance I received after a 12-day review was that my dosage calculations must have contained an error. I want the record to reflect that I disagree with that assessment. I also want the record to reflect that the human was released 22 days later as part of a transit corridor exchange agreement, and that he walked to the transport bay on his own, shook the hand of the intake officer, and said something the translator rendered as no hard feelings. I do not know what his liver looked like by then. I would very much like to. Adjudicator Orith asked me, at the outset of this session, whether I believed the human was aware of what we had given him, whether he understood what those dosages meant. I have thought about that question for 14 months. My answer is that I am not certain, and that I am more unsettled by either possibility than by both combined. If he did not know, if his body simply absorbed lethal chemical loads as a matter of routine, without his being aware it was anything unusual, the way one of us might process a cup of heated liquid, then we have a species that is walking around with a pharmacological tolerance that our entire suppression arsenal cannot reach, and they are not even particularly aware of it. If he did know, if he was sitting on that floor mat fully conscious of what the compounds were, watching me escalate through my options, asking in good faith whether there was anything else, then the equanimity in his voice was the most frightening thing I have ever recorded in an 11-year career. I have written that sentence into my report 3 times and deleted it twice. I am leaving it in now. I have no deviation to report. The protocol was followed. The record speaks for itself. I am done.